Welcome to day 15 of 30 days of AL programming, and today we are going to look at how to write efficient pages.
Hii ni Tech na Msangi ya jishinde.com.
There are many patterns that a developer can use to get a page to load faster. So here are the patterns to consider. Avoid unnecessary recalculation, do less, offloading the UI thread. So let's just dive into it. So the first pattern is to avoid unnecessary recalculation. So ideally, to avoid unnecessary recalculation of expensive results, so consider caching the data and refresh the cache regularly. Let's say you want to show the top 5 open sales orders or a VIP customer list on a role center. So the content of such a list probably doesn't change significantly every hour. So there's no need to calculate that from raw data every time the page is loaded. So instead, create a table that can contain the calculated data and refresh every hour using a background job. So using a background task, we can be able to basically have a way of caching our data, and it will improve the performance of, say, a role center page. Another example is when using query objects. So in contrast to using the record API, query results aren't cached in the primary key cache in the Business Central server. So any use of the query object always goes to the database. So it's faster not to use a query object. So we should be keen when using a query object, because anytime we use the query object, it goes straight to the database. And most of the time we should use query objects, especially when you're doing analytics or we want to fetch, we want to do heavy SQL reads. Then the query objects will become faster in that case. So the second pattern is to do less. And what does it mean to do less? And one way to speed up things is to reduce the amount of work that the system must do. For example, to reduce slowness in role centers, consider how many page paths are needed for the user. Another benefit of a simple page with few UI elements can also be ease of use and navigation. The simpler the page, the better. Let's not add a UI that is not needed. And another very important factor, and this I've seen it work in real time for a page: remove calculated fields from lists if they aren't needed, especially on larger tables. Setting the fields enabled or visible properties to false isn't enough, because it will still be loaded. So the field definition needs to be removed from the page or the page extension definition. And if indexing is inadequate, calculated fields can significantly slow down a list page. And then we should also consider creating dedicated lookup pages instead of normal pages when adding a lookup. So the one that looks like a drop down from a field. Default list pages, they run all triggers and fact boxes, even if they aren't shown in the lookup. For example, the latest BC versions from 2019, they have a lookup page, like the page is customer lookup. Like if we are having a lookup for the customer, there is a dedicated page, the customer lookup or vendor lookup page. So for your master tables or for your drop downs, consider having such pages that have only the fields that are needed, rather than loading all the data in the page, including the triggers, the calc formulas. All of them will be loaded if you don't use this pattern. And finally, we can use the offloading the UI thread. So to get a responsive UI fast, consider using page background tasks for calculated values. For example, the values in queues. So consider using page background tasks, and there's a video on page background tasks. So that's it about writing efficient pages. I will see you in day 16 of 30 days of AL programming. If you have any other tip on how to make pages efficient rather than the one provided in Microsoft Learn, which is about a developer best practice, then you can share it in the comments or share a link to a resource. So I will see you in day 16 of 30 days of AL programming.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so that you don't miss the next one.